why your mindfulness practice might be sabotaging you, and how to tell why your daily meditation practice might be sabotaging you. What if that sacred mindfulness routine you swear by is actually keeping you stuck in the most sophisticated form of procrastination ever invented? Sounds crazy, right? Everyone's preaching that mindfulness is the answer to anxiety, stress, and lack of focus. But here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to admit. You might be using mindfulness as high-end avoidance disguised as personal growth. Think about this for a second. How many times have you sat down to meditate right when you had something challenging to handle? That difficult project at work, that tough conversation you've been avoiding, that life decision you know you need to make. And then you think, let me meditate first to clear my head. Ring any bells? The reality is that our minds are incredibly clever at creating avoidance mechanisms dressed up as self-improvement. And mindfulness, when misapplied, becomes exactly that. A meditative comfort zone where you can hide from life's real challenges. Here's what's happening. You've turned mindfulness into emotional anesthesia. Instead of feeling the anger that signals your boundaries are being violated, you observe the anger and let it pass. Instead of using anxiety as fuel to change what needs changing, you accept the anxiety and stay put. A groundbreaking study from the University of Wisconsin revealed something fascinating. People who practiced mindfulness passively showed decreased motivation to solve practical problems in their lives. They became so comfortable in the observation state that they lost the drive for action. Look, I'm not here to demonize meditation, but I need to warn you about this subtle trap that might be keeping you locked in a loop of self-awareness without real transformation. Because what's the point of being super present and conscious if you keep making the same limiting choices? The problem isn't mindfulness itself, but how the wellness industry has turned this ancient practice into another form of sophisticated procrastination. You sit, breathe, observe your thoughts, and walk away feeling enlightened. But then what? What actually changes in your concrete reality? What different actions do you take? The truth is that too many people are using mindfulness as spiritual bypassing. Instead of dealing with the messy, uncomfortable work of changing their lives, they retreat into this peaceful inner world where everything is observed but nothing is challenged. This is the big trap. Mindfulness has become synonymous with passivity. They taught you that being conscious means not engaging, always maintaining contemplative distance. But what if I told you that sometimes you need to get completely involved, get righteously angry, act with urgency? What if the very practice that's supposed to wake you up is actually putting you to sleep? What if all that inner peace is just sophisticated numbness keeping you from the fierce aliveness that real growth requires? If this is hitting home, drop a truth in the comments and smash that like button to show me you want the real story about these practices everyone's pushing. And subscribe, because we're about to deconstruct a whole lot more. How you're meditating your way out of your own life. Here's a question that might sting. What if your mindfulness practice is making you more disconnected from your real life than you ever imagined? Let me tell you something I've discovered watching hundreds of self-help addicts. They know everything about themselves, but can't change absolutely nothing. That's exactly what happens when you turn mindfulness into another form of mental entertainment. You become so fascinated observing your patterns, your triggers, your automatic thoughts that you forget to, actually live. It's like binge watching Netflix about your own life instead of starring in it. The inconvenient truth is that mindfulness has become the new binge watching for people who think they're evolved. You can spend hours diving into your internal landscape, exploring every emotional nuance, mapping every childhood trauma, and at the end of the day, remain exactly where you started. Researchers at Harvard discovered something revealing. People who practiced meditation excessively showed a decrease in their ability to make practical decisions. They became so accustomed to just observing that they lost the skill to discern when it was time to stop observing and start acting. Authentic mindfulness was supposed to make you more present in life, more capable of consciously responding to challenges. But what's happening is the opposite. You're using it to create a contemplative bubble where nothing ever needs to be truly resolved. You know that peaceful feeling you get after meditating? What if I told you that sometimes that peace is problematic? Because sometimes you should be restless. Sometimes you should be dissatisfied enough to get off your butt and change what needs changing in your life. The problem is they sold you the idea that being spiritual means being always zen, always balanced, always accepting everything as it is. But check this out. History's great transformers weren't Zen people who accepted everything. They were people who were deeply disturbed by the status quo and did something about it. Mindfulness has become existential anesthesia. You observe your life passing by, observe your opportunities slipping away, observe your relationships cooling down, but always from a safe, contemplative distance. I'm being conscious, you think. But consciousness without action is just spiritual voyeurism. The reality is that many people are using mindfulness to avoid the responsibility of being the protagonist of their own story. It's more comfortable being the silent observer of your life than being the director who needs to make tough decisions and live with the consequences. Here's what's really happening. You've become addicted to the feeling of being aware without the commitment of being accountable. You love the high of insight without the work of implementation. You're hooked on understanding yourself without the courage to transform yourself. The meditation cushion has become your hiding place from the arena of life. While everyone else is out there making mistakes, taking risks, failing forward, you're sitting in your little enlightened bubble, feeling superior about your self-awareness. If this is resonating with you, drop a reel in the comments and hit that like to show me you're ready for a more honest approach to personal development, and ring that notification bell to catch the next truths we're dropping here. Why your conscious mind might be keeping you unconscious. Now here's the part that's going to mess with you. What if all this hyper-awareness of your mental processes is actually disconnecting you from your deepest intuition? Sounds paradoxical, but it's exactly what happens when you turn self-knowledge into an analytical obsession. Let me explain a phenomenon I see constantly. Super evolved people who can perfectly explain all their traumas, identify all their limiting patterns, and describe with surgical precision every movement of their psyche. But when you ask them, what do you really want from life? They go silent. This happens because mindfulness, when misapplied, becomes a sophisticated form of rumination. You get so focused on monitoring your thoughts that you lose touch with your instincts, your genuine desires, your body wisdom. It's like trading your internal compass for a mental instruction manual. The truth is your conscious mind is just a tiny part of the iceberg. Most of your most important life decisions come from a much deeper place than that mental chatter you're observing all day. But when you're always in observer mode, you disconnect from that more primitive and wise intelligence. Researchers at the University of Amsterdam discovered something fascinating. People who made complex decisions unconsciously, following their initial impressions, achieved significantly better results than those who consciously analyzed all the variables. Excessive mindfulness might be preventing you from accessing this intuitive intelligence. Here's what's really happening. You become so obsessed with being conscious that you lose naturalness. Every emotion becomes a study object. Every impulse becomes grounds for analysis. Every sensation becomes a topic for reflection. You don't live anymore, you study life. It's like that person who goes to a concert and spends the whole time filming with their phone to post on social media. They don't experience the concert, they document the concert. The same thing happens with mindfulness. You don't live your experiences, you mentally document them. And there's more. This constant self-surveillance is creating a generation of people who've lost the ability to surprise themselves. Everything needs to be conscious, predicted, controlled. But real life worth living, happens in moments of spontaneity, else total surrender. Authentic mindfulness was supposed to free you from automatic patterns, not turn you into a detective of your own mind. It was for you to be present enough to follow your deepest instincts, not to eternally analyze whether your instincts are correct. You know what the irony is? You're being so conscious that you've lost consciousness. You're so mentally present that you've become existentially absent. You're so connected to your processes that you've disconnected from your essence. The real kicker that you've turned mindfulness into the ultimate form of spiritual materialism. You collect insights like trophies, accumulate awareness like wealth, but none of it translates into the raw courage needed to live authentically. You become a connoisseur of your own consciousness instead of a warrior of your own transformation. You know all about your inner world, but you've forgotten how to engage boldly with the outer world. If this analysis is making you question your own practice, comment essence below and leave your light to show you want to understand how to reconnect with your deeper truth. And subscribe because we're going to keep deconstructing these limiting beliefs disguised as evolution. How to transform mindfulness into fuel for real action. So how do you escape this contemplative trap and use mindfulness as it should be used? As a tool for real transformation, not sophisticated escapism. The answer goes against everything you've been taught about this practice. First, stop using mindfulness as emotional therapy. Mindfulness isn't for making you feel better, it's for making you see better. The difference is enormous. When you use it to feel better, you're seeking comfort. When you use it to see better, you're seeking clarity. For action, here's the secret nobody tells you. Effective mindfulness is uncomfortable. Because when you really see your life clearly, you notice all the areas where you're being mediocre, all the opportunities you're wasting, all the relationships you're neglecting. And this perception should deeply disturb you. The truth is that real mindfulness doesn't make you zen. It makes you urgent. It shows you with crystal clarity the gap between where you are and where you could be. And that gap should generate productive restlessness that moves you to action, not passive acceptance that paralyzes you. Researchers at Stanford University discovered that mindfulness practitioners who combined observation with intention to change were 300% more likely to implement real transformations in their lives compared to those who just observed without purpose for action. Let me give you a practical framework. Every time you sit for a mindfulness practice, end with 3 specific questions. First, what did I see about myself today that needs to change? Second, what's the smallest action I can take today to begin that change? Third, how will I hold myself accountable for this action? The mindfulness that transforms isn't the one that calms you. It's the one that awakens you to your personal responsibility. It's not the one that makes you accept your limitations. It's the one that shows you your unexplored possibilities. It's not the one that teaches you to live with your problems. It's the one that equips you to solve them. The big shift happens when you stop using mindfulness to escape from life and start using it to dive deeper into life. When you stop observing your thoughts as entertainment and start using those observations as data for better decision making. Look, I know it's easier to stay in the meditative comfort zone where you can feel evolved without having to change anything real in your life. But if you've made it this far, it's because some part of you knows you deserve more than this anesthetized version of personal growth. The mindfulness that matters is the one that makes you an active agent of your own transformation, not a passive spectator of your own existence. It's the one that connects you with your courage, your determination, your capacity to create significant changes in the world. True mindfulness should leave you feeling like a caged lion who just remembered they have claws. It should ignite the fire in your belly, not extinguish it. It should make you hungry for life, not satisfied with observation. The meditation that counts is the one that ends with you rolling up your sleeves and getting to work on your actual life, not the one that ends with you floating in blissful detachment from your responsibilities. If this content stirred something in you and you want more honest takes on personal development, drop an action in the comments, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because the personal revolution begins when we stop meditating about our lives and start living them intensely.